Thank you. Your presentation today is coming from the leaders of All of Us or None. All of Us or None is a grassroots civil and human rights organization fighting for the rights of formerly and currently incarcerated people and our families. We are fighting against the discrimination that people face every day because of arrest or conviction history. The goal of All of Us or None is to strengthen the voices of people most affected by mass incarceration and the growth of the prison industrial complex. Through our grassroots organizing, we are building a powerful movement to win full restoration of our human and civil rights. We believe in fighting racism and economic injustice as a means to end mass incarceration. We believe in human dignity of people in prison and that those people come from and are part of our communities. We believe in the right and responsibility of incarcerated people and formerly incarcerated people to speak and be heard in our own voices, transform our lives and communities, and fully participate in all aspects of society. We've got a video presentation for you today and then a panel shortly following. And prior to the video presentation, I want to read the bios of the people presenting. Eureka's Carney was born in Oakland, California, and raised in Compton, California. He is a proud father and business owner. Eureka's first experience incarceration at the age of 16. He was incarcerated at the California Youth Authority and would remain incarcerated until he was a legal adult. His involvement with the criminal legal system continued even after he relocated to Washington State. He attributes his involvement with the criminal legal system to lack of mentorship and family support offered to his inner city community. Eureka's first visited Spokane with family members looking for opportunities for employment. He relocated to Spokane in 1995 and was soon incarcerated in the Spokane County Jail. He attributes this incarceration to his substance use and lack of treatment options. Eureka's found employment through family contacts at a nationwide copy company willing to offer him a chance. He grew his job skills and ultimately co-founded his own copy business in May of 2005. Eureka's employs previously incarcerated people in his business. Eureka's is an organizer and leader for All of Us or None, Eastern Washington. He is actively involved in the movement to end recidivism and assist peers with reentry as a co-director and co-founder of Spokane's new Peer Reentry Navigation and Community Bail Fund. Terry Britt was raised in Seattle, Washington. He attended Central Washington University and played sports on a high level. Terry was recently released from a 13-year federal prison term. He made the decision to change his lifestyle due to the lack of rehabilitation in prison. Terry is the father of 2 boys and participates with the National Fatherhood Summit. He is currently employed as a housing and peer support specialist. Terry worked as a first responder at the COVID isolation sites in Seattle and as a peer navigator for Pioneer Human Services Roadmap to Success program. He is a cancer survivor of 4 years. Terry proudly has 14 years recovery from substance use and is currently in recovery from PTSD and anxiety. He has attained his certified peer counselor certification. Terry works to help people transitioning back into society through his work as a family support coach, men's group facilitator, responsible renter facilitator, and speaking on panels. Terry fought to overcome a rescinded job offer that ultimately helped shape policy for previously incarcerated individuals to obtain government employment here in Spokane. He is living proof change is possible. Terry is a co-founder for All of Us or None, Eastern Washington. Our other moderator, Lauren Hickson, is a residential treatment specialist manager for Pioneer Human Services. She is currently part of a leadership planning team for Pioneer's mental health and substance use disorder crisis stabilization unit in Spokane, serving as an alternative to incarceration. Lauren is a proud employee of Pioneer since 2016 and is dedicated to their mission of honoring the humanity of people by reducing the impact of discriminatory mass incarceration and empowering people by overturning barriers. Lauren obtained a bachelor's degree from Whitworth University and graduated with honors. She's a proud mom and person in recovery. She has worked in the nonprofit sector since 2010 and has volunteered in numerous community programs throughout her career. Lauren helped to co-found the Eastern Washington chapter of All of Us or None.
Stanley Hardwin was born in Brooklyn, New York. His parents and older siblings immigrated from Panama in the early 1960s. He graduated from Cerritos High School in 1989. His involvement with the criminal legal system began at the age of 15. Stanley is a father and a grandfather. Stanley has served over 20 years incarcerated. He was released in 2014 after serving 13 years in the Washington State Department of Corrections. Stanley is a 2016 graduate of Spokane Community College. He is currently employed as an HVAC technician and supports education and training for trade programs. Stanley is a co-director of the Eastern Washington chapter of All of Us or None. His work with All of Us or None includes advocating for previously incarcerated individuals and their families to access mental health and substance use treatment, education, and housing. He is currently participating in a jail prevention project and directly impacted voter engagement campaign. As a co-director and co-founder of Spokane's Pirie Reentry Navigation and Community Bail Fund, he is passionate about ending gang violence, promoting access to vocational trades, and ending mass incarceration. Megan Pirie was born and raised in Spokane, Washington. She has lived experience of incarceration and involvement in the criminal legal system, reaching back to 1993. She has been a teen and incarcerated mother. Megan overcame systematic barriers and became a licensed foster parent in 2012 and has adopted 4 children involved in the foster care system. She is a co-founder and director of the Eastern Washington chapter of All of Us or None. She graduated from Spokane Falls with an AAS degree in addiction studies. She holds a license with the Washington State Department of Health as an SUD PT. Her previous employment includes substance use disorder counselor and community engagement specialist at Pioneer Human Services, and also as a recovery support navigator with the Bail Project, assisting participants with reentry and treatment navigation. Megan has participated in local parent-teacher association as a vice president, acted as a volunteer coach to the YMCA for at-risk youth, built an outreach program to visit our local work release centers, and completed the 2020 Parent Ambassador Training. She's a co-director and a co-founder of Spokane's Peer Reentry Navigation and Community Bail Fund. Megan is passionate about strengthening families, assisting previously incarcerated individuals with reentry and ending mass incarceration.
Thank you, Lauren. For the next part of our program and panel discussion, we would like to play a video that we had created. If you can cue the video, we'll watch the video.
I started at the age of 16, pretty young, and running the streets, and got myself in some real big trouble at the age of 16. I was sentenced to 7 years in California Youth Authority. Luckily then I didn't have any kids at the time, so I had the mentality, I mean, people I was running around in the streets, I didn't care. And wasn't taught when I get out. I mean, I wasn't even prepared to re-enter from being in there. All I was doing in jail was pretty much lifting weights, talking about crimes, and waiting to get out to probably do the same old thing over again.
The first time when I went in, actually when I first went into the county, I got out like 3 weeks after my daughter was born. And it was a shocking, you know what I mean? Because I thought I was gonna get out before that. And so then did a couple times in prison, then come out here to Washington, get caught up and got broke off, did 13 and a half years. And during that time, my daughter was 9, so she knew what was going on, you know what I mean? And just being away from her was like one of the hardest things for me.
Kind of fast forward a little bit, I got a couple of kids and got violated once again. And that really hurt. And I started thinking like, am I gonna keep doing this am I gonna do this to my kids? I know they depended on me. So my mother came and got them from out here that first time, and my thinking started changing. Like, I got people depending on me now, and I got to give up some of the things. I can't be as selfish as I used to be. I didn't really give them no thought. I knew I had to take care of my kids.
That's the same story for me. My mom and dad showed up every time and took my son and kept him safe, so he didn't have to fall into the system. And I think that that's a big reason why I do the work that I do and navigate the people that I do, because I'm tired of seeing the the children fall into the system. Now, and I was incarcerated in the 90s, but I think, how could we get 2021 and these people are, our people are experiencing the same thing that we experienced in the 90s? How can the system have not changed? How can they still not hear our voice? So, I mean, for me, that was the biggest thing for me. The number one biggest thing was no concern for our mental health or whether we even had the capabilities to what we had to do to stay out of jail, let alone live a good life.
I had a lot of barriers when I first came home, dealing with being a cancer survivor, having 2 grown sons whose life I had been out of for so long. I'm trying to find a place to live, but getting a job, and it was the hardest. Your background was always a part of mild discrimination, but it was discrimination. They, had to go through it. But even when I found a job, found out what I wanted to do, I had to take a job that I didn't want just to get ends meet, make a minimum wage, working hard as I could to try to get to where I wanted to be. So once I finally got my peer certificate, being a certified peer, I was still unable to get paid as a certified peer because from what they said, I hadn't used it yet. So I had to gain experience in order to get there. And then when I found a job that I really wanted, the interview process, it seemed like they were hiring me because of my past. But when it came time for me to get hired, they rescinded the job after I had already resigned from my other job. So I was basically, around the holidays, unemployed.
Went to Compton, got my kids, and came back to Spokane, was looking for a job. Couldn't find one, and just by luckily, a young lady I used to go out with, her sister-in-law gave me a job. We was making copies. A lot of people think making copies is very easy, but it's a method to the madness, trust me. But anyway, I learned it, and I knew it within myself. Like, this is a time that, either this is gonna make you or break you. So learn the trade and do what you gotta do, which I did. The company left town. I didn't know what the hell I was gonna do after that, but I figured out a company called Minuteman Press is still in town. I told him, hey, you got some extra space? I got the know-how. Let's get a couple of machines. You got the rent. You rent this space out to me, and we can, make some money.
Went through a time when my girlfriend died, when I was like, right after I graduated and stuff, she ended up passing away, so going through that, then, taking care of the kids, all this shit was new to me, being playing doctor, nurse, dad, dog sitter, doing everything, so everything was like overwhelming and stuff, and the temptation to hit the streets again was calling, but I told myself no, I'm working hard, I'm striving hard, and I'm just gonna keep going, and I did. And now I'm working full time, making pretty good money, and I'm doing all right. And I would like to let the guys know, other people know that, like Terry said, man, never give up. There's opportunity out here, and just try it. Never give up. Don't let the devil take you down, and don't let none of that crap overwhelm you to where you go back and do some stupid stuff, because being locked up in the cages where we don't want to be.
I think we got to fight it from the inside out, and being inside is what it takes. And I think that I'm inside. I'm in a position where I can help others, and that's what I do in my job every day. Because we run across barriers. It comes with housing. Some places now they don't want to take nobody with criminal past. They don't care how long it's been. Or your credit score is not good enough. Of course, people don't know about credit score. So these are all the things that I feel like I need to let people know and teach them how to, and help them how to fix it and advocate for them, which I do on a daily basis, to ensure that we have a chance, because sometimes that's all we need is a chance. I don't know, that's all I needed was a chance.
And some people was blessed more than others to have that support that more on that financial support or whatever, is to have a roof over your head when you get out. Some cats get out and don't even have a roof over their head. You know what I mean? You have to stay, rent a room from a friend or somebody. So just to have that support as itself makes a major difference on your reentry, you know? And not just that, it has to be you, the individual. You have to know when enough is enough. During my journey being out, I was communicating, I always stayed in touch with a lot of fellas inside, showing pictures, me at school, working on ACs and stuff, and showing them like, hey man, there's a way. You know what I mean? If I'm doing it, you know me, you'd be like, if Spook's doing it, I can do it.
Everything I do now is for the future, for my kids, for their kids, you know, and for everyone else's kids that have to come home, you know, we leave our sons with our women to raise by themselves, you know what I mean? And they do the best they can. They do remarkable jobs, but having a father there and that's being a model. Maybe I wasn't there when they were young as a role model, but I could be a role model to them today and show them that, you know, hard work pays off, and don't ever give up.
There's so many people still behind bars that are our family and our friends, that it costs them money to call us. They don't have contact. Our people all sitting in prison have not hugged a loved one in over a year. So there's a whole lot to think about for even the people that are behind bars. So our job is like triple tasked, right? We're tasked with keeping people from going in, supporting the people that are in, and then supporting them when they make it home. And a lot of people came home during COVID to, here's your freedom. And, you know, we're not free until our rights are restored. So we don't really, if we don't have our full rights back, I don't know what you call freedom. And people who have never been incarcerated would not be able to deal with the collateral consequences that we deal with.
Yeah, I would say change is hard, but it's necessary. And we're here to help. You're muted, Megan.
Thank you. As we progress through the panel, I just want to remind you that you can put a question in the question and answer box, and we'll try to answer it in the chat. Or if we have time at the end of our panel, then we'll take some questions from the attendees. So our first panel question is, we talked a lot in the video about the barriers to coming home, and you know, what happens when someone comes home and the reentry that they experience. And so our first question is, can you tell us a little bit about your barriers? And then how were they barriers to you actually healing when you came home? And I think we're going to have Terry answer that question first, please.
Well, when I first came home, you know, I had already lost my mom while I was in prison. I had been diagnosed with cancer. You know, I was incarcerated. I was in the federal system, so I was incarcerated way across country. So it was times where I didn't get a visit for 5 or 6 years at a time. And then, you know, just coming home and having to deal with all that, on top of the fact that there's no rehabilitation in prison, is just punishment, you know? And so, you know, just for instance, you get out and you have nothing set there for you. But, you know, here in Spokane, there was a police officer killed his wife, blamed it on a black man. So that's premeditated murder. And then there's black men in prison right now in there for selling drugs with life sentences, no violence whatsoever, you know? So it's really not set up for us to succeed. It's set up to fail. Like Ricky said in his video, when you're in jail, you think about doing crime. You're talking to people about, you know, doing more crime, you know what I'm saying? So I had to come back and go through all that, you know what I mean? And also reentry was hard because there's nothing there for you to guide you. It's like, here, go look for a job, go do this, go do that, you know, but you got to deal with mental health, you know, had to recognize that you had some mental health issues. There's nobody there to, you know, tell you, you got to ask for it. You know, you got to be upon yourself to feel like you need to ask for help. And that's hard for us because we don't know about that, because that's what happened to me the first time I came home. Did 7 years. 2 years later, I went back and did 13 because I didn't deal with my mental health. I had a job and everything, and I still decided to get back into the same old situations because I had nobody to help me. You know what I mean? Nobody knew. I didn't know. So it was just hard for you. There's no direction. Your POs are not there. They won't advocate for you. They won't tell you to go and check on this, check on that. Are you okay? It's strictly just do this, do that, or you're going back. And so you're still trying to beat the system when you get out. It's just all these barriers. And you got to find a place to live. You want transportation, you want a job, you want to eat. Everything just hit you at one time. Being out your kid's life for so long, child support, it was hitting you on the head. As soon as you get a job, they're garnishing your check. You feel like there's no hope.
Thank you, Terry. Rikus, can you elaborate a little more on the barriers that you experienced when you came home? You're on mute, Eureka's.
You're on mute.
Still muted.
There we go. Yeah, I was a teenager when I first went to jail and done time. I was a grown man when I got out. Funny thing is, I didn't know nothing about being grown because I'm out now and had to kind of figure out life again. Because when you're in there talking, you talking about crime, you're doing things, but you're not prepared for when you get back on the streets. If you do 6 months, 6 years, 60 years, life changes when you're gone. When you get back out, you gotta kind of catch your surroundings and figure out what's going on. But when I did get out, same thing was basically mostly going on with the police. I'm still getting pulled over. Most of the time you get pulled over in the car is a felony stop. Police got a gun pulled on you. Ask them, what are you pulling us over for? Your back light is not working. So why you got a gun pulled on us? Police always, where's the guns? Where's the drugs? What makes you think I sell drugs? What makes you think I got a gun? But that was commonplace. And that kind of makes you kind of numb to it after a while. That you like, man, here come the damn police again. So I think I'm gonna run this time because I don't want to deal with them. The drugs was plentiful because I couldn't get a job at, it was real hard after 6 months of looking for a job. Parole officers sweating you. I need to eat. So what I do, I have to go figure out, well, I'm probably gonna sell some drugs for a while. But that always is a risk. You know what I'm saying? But as in just living on the streets, being out there on the streets, just talking to your neighbor or people you grew up with, is always some type of authority. When authority police come around, it's always a negative sense because we don't necessarily have to be doing anything, but they're gonna definitely come and make something happen. At that time, I didn't have any kids yet, so my thinking wasn't right. That made me have a disdain for the police.
Thank you, Eureka's. Stanley, can you weigh in on the question of, can you tell us a little bit about your barriers to your successful reentry and how they kept you from healing?
I can go back and say October 24th, 1971. That's the day I was born. And I feel every Black man is born into a barrier already in this society. And then my parents are from Panama, so basically there was immigrants from Panama. And then another barrier is the separation I have from my daughter and the rest of my family being gone so long. My daughter's in Southern California. I'm out here in Washington. I get locked up. She's 9 years old. So she knows what's going on. So when I get out, she's 22. I have a granddaughter, my first grandkid and stuff. I'm happy, proud dad and all that. But I still have to reestablish that relationship with her, even though we communicated while I was in there. So that was one. Then also I went to school, got out, started going to school full time, and something crazy happened. Like they let us go on ride-alongs with other companies that's trying to recruit people from school. So for the fact that I have a criminal background, I wasn't allowed to go any ride-alongs with the companies. So that was like a slap in the face to me, because I'm like, I'm in here learning, going to school every day, busting my butt with these guys. I know just what they know, same stuff. So it's like, how they get to go and I can't. So I'm like, okay, you ain't gonna hold me back. On my off days, I go myself knocking on doors of the companies and did my own ride along. Got in where I fit in and did my own ride along, you know what I mean? And start soaking it up, learn everything. And then also another barrier, while I was in school, my girlfriend at the time, she was having health issues. So she ended up passing away, and just dealing with that grief and learning about mental health was hard. It was very hard. I was in a dark place, and, it takes time and you come out of it. And also while I was incarcerated, I ended up getting health issues, high blood pressure, which ended up making my vision in my right eye bad, to where I started getting eye surgeries. I had to get out and try to find some type of medical care, which I ended up doing. So since I've been out now, I had like 20 to 25 eye injections, and like, who wants a needle poked in their eye? You know what I mean? So that's another barrier.
Thank you, Stan. So the next question for the panelists: how did you overcome those barriers, and what was helpful to you? Sirikis, if you would like to start, that'd be great.
When I first got out, I had my family still, so that was a very good support system for me, because I needed somebody. And they gave me leads, and I knew I didn't want to go to jail, but I was still thinking like, I'm slicker than society. I can do this and get away with certain things. And that was a very hard learned lesson for me, because I got violated for that. So when I'm sitting here this time in jail, and I'm like, are you gonna go back outside and back in society and do the same thing again? Because it's not working out for you. So at this time, I'm a little older now. I have 2 kids, and I really don't want them to be involved in this. I don't want to put myself in a position to not be around them, which I end up doing anyway, from using drugs, and then I get caught back up and I go back to jail. And that to the average person, that's gonna really hurt. I had to just deal with not being around them. They was young, but they didn't know really what was going on. Because I was trying to, basically, I got myself in that position from trying to hang out in the streets and work at the same time. I wasn't committed to really trying to stay out. I thought I could do 2 things at once, which is kind of not a good thing. And I know after that time, I got back out. Once I was released from violation, it was like, it's time for a change, Eureka's. You definitely need to change. You got people depending on you. It's time to ask for help. You got to find out if there is help out there, but you got to be man enough to go ask for it and stop, hiding behind your pride, because that's not a good thing.
Thank you. Terry, can you weigh in on what was helpful to you?
Well, first of all, like he said, you got to ask for help, but I had to recognize that I needed help, and recognize that I had mental health issues, from PTSD to dealing with my mom's loss and having cancer. And that was the first step. It was actually Megan helped me, spoke to me about talking about it and asking about it, which got me started. And once I did that, I seemed like it was a weight lifted off my shoulders, you know what I mean? And so then I was able to take as much training as I could, because after going through a bunch of interviews and getting turned down, and the different style of interviews they do now compared to when I had last been out, that I had to train myself to be employable at whatever position came available that I could take. You know what I mean? So I made sure that, and I had to prepare myself that this was going to be my lifestyle, that I was going to be working, that I wasn't going to go back to what I used to do. You know what I mean? There was times where I caught the bus for a whole year before I even went and got my license. You know what I mean? And I just prepared myself to be for change, basically. This is what it's going to be. You know, I had to humble myself, you know, and I surrounded myself with people that were on the same page and had the same visions as I did, you know, and that's how we all got together. But if I hadn't have done that, but asking for help is the main thing. Like Rika said, you got to ask for help. You know, even though you come home and in the federal system, they have all your paperwork. They know you had cancer. They know your parents died. They know my dad was sick. He just recently died. They know you're going through all these things, but they're not pointing you in the direction. Because when you're in prison, they ask you, you want to get mental health, you automatically think, oh, no, I'm not crazy. I don't need no mental health, you know, not knowing that it's different than being, you know, crazy, which, you know, people going back to jail over and over again, you would consider them insane at some point, right? But I still had to ask for help and recognize that I needed the help. That was the first step, you know, and then changing your life and being ready to know that I'm not going to hustle, you know what I mean? Getting out the first time after doing 7 years, you know, and going right back in. It was, you know, I remember when they closed the door on me in the county jail, I told myself, I can't do this no more. You know, that was it for me, you know. And being out of my son's life, they're 25 and 24, and I've been incarcerated 20 of those years. You know, I'm a stranger to them, you know what I mean? I'm just glad they accept me as a father still today.
Thank you, Terry. Stan, would you like to comment on what was helpful for you?
Yeah, Lauren. Well, first I told myself that I'm not going to be a statistic and go back again. I told myself I'm going to stay focused and get my stuff right. And thank God that I had a very, very good landlord who accepted me when I got out of incarceration, knowing that I had a violent background, getting out of prison. She didn't hold that against me. She gave me a chance, you know, so, and we're still good friends up to this day. And like for people who doesn't have that, that's very overwhelming and will make you have a stronger temptation to go back to what you know best, which is either picking up a gun or selling drugs. You know what I mean? So just having that was a blessing to me, you know what I mean? And then when I'm doing the right thing. So I'm doing my probation officer. It was all right, but you know, probation officers. I didn't have no violations, no dirty UAs. And basically I was doing what I was supposed to do, you know, so they had no problem. They had no reason to mess with me. So then I'm going to school. I'm learning everything I can. I'm surrounding myself with good people, you know, soaking up everything. And then basically I fell in love with my trade and I love what I do and I still do it, you know. And as time went on, I started taking an active role in my community, you know, helping people to register to vote, you know, educating and talking to them about voting and why you should vote. And I just like basically now just surround myself with good, hardworking people. If you with the bull, I'm not with it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Thanks, Stan.
Thanks, Dan. Our next question, and it kind of goes along with the question that someone put in the question and answer box. How does your lived experience affect the work that you do now? What approaches do you use? And then I think we were going to have Terry answer that one first.
Well, for me, my lived experience is big because, I mean, when I came home, this is part of the reason why, you know, I helped co-found All of Us or None, Eastern Washington, because I said there was a need for the things that I needed, and I had no direction. You know, I had good family support and good friends, but we understand everybody doesn't have that. You know what I mean? Because when you go do long prison sentence, people, you know, they pass away. You know, and your friends and family, some of them be gone. You know, I lost a lot, and so I had to make a choice and see this is what I want to do, and I had to, you know, do it. And I just put myself in a position where I could be able to help. And in my lived experience, it was a hindrance at first, you know, and I learned to turn it around and using it to my advantage, you know what I mean? Find the people and find the places that hire because of that, you know, and then fight for that, you know what I'm saying? You got to fight twice as hard, you know, and I prepared myself to do that, you know, even for the job I have now, I had to, you know, when it was rescinded right before Christmas, I had to get a letter from Olympia, from 3 departments in Olympia, and nobody knew who I should contact to get it. They said, this is just what you need. You got 8 days to get it. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I was mad for about 30 minutes, and then I opened my computer up and I got to work. And that's how I live today. You know, that's my lived experience is, you know, and I explained this to them, you know what I mean? You know, and I told them what I needed to not be a risk, because they said I was a risk to the community that they serve, which I'm a part of. And so to me, that was telling me that, you know, I'm not accepted, you know what I mean? And so I didn't feel like I wanted to be not accepted. I feel like I deserve and I have a chance to help others like me. And so I ended up getting the information I needed, and they offered me the job back, you know what I mean? And in my department, I'm the only Black man that do what I do, you know what I mean? And it's good for me because I feel like I've opened the door that policy has to change. They have to change policies, you know what I mean, which they've done. So that policy is in place now that the next man come along and apply for a job, they have to look at that policy and says, oh, we can't hold that against him. You know what I mean? Because you work hard to make yourself employable and do the things that they ask you to do. You know, I never had a violation. I never got in trouble. My PO, no dirty UAs, no nothing. You know what I mean? My PO don't even, never came by my house to check on me. Everything I said I was gonna do, I did it. You know what I mean? And that was the key to me being, you know, being where I'm at today. And like you said, you know, you like what you do. You don't never work a day in your life. You know, I wake up every day looking forward to going to work, and that's big for me.
Thank you, Terry. Britt, can you tell us how your lived experience affects the work you do and what approaches you use with the people that you're working with? You're muted again.
No, as a Black man being released from prison once again, I kind of know what to look for. In my head, I'm like, man, now I'm gonna go try to find a job. I'm gonna get turned down, and then what I'm gonna do? This time around, I'm older now. My kids are getting older, and I made it up in my mind like I can't do this anymore. I have to be a productive citizen. But how am I going to do that? I mean, eventually I did get a job at a copy company, which helped me. And I did learn a trade. After that company moved, I went to another company. That kind of didn't work out too much. I knew enough then, I was able to start my own company, which I feel very good about that. And it's like, I know people that has been incarcerated, like you have to give people a chance sometimes. I mean, I know that because I took a chance and gave somebody a try. Everybody's not going to be able to do that. I mean, but in the way that is, I mean, the stigma of you've been to jail, you are no good person. That's got to change because everybody is not a bad person. Everybody makes mistakes. And I know when you're coming out of the system, and if you don't have nobody, it's going to be very hard for you because you're not going to know which way to turn, and you're going to need somebody in your corner to know that they can trust you and you can trust them. I mean, they got to have been through it because the most people get out of the prison system, they don't trust authority figures no more because they have dealt with them all their lives or however long they've been in jail. I mean, and that's why I'm glad and happy to be part of peer reentry, navigation, and community bail fund because they are here to help. And I want to be there, and we are here to help because we know people need help.
Thanks, Eureka's. Stanley, do you want to follow up on that question? How does your lived experience affect the work you do now? And then what holistic approaches do you use? And the question and answer that kind of went along with this is how can you give hope to our currently incarcerated community members that they don't have to go through what you went through? And so I think it's part of like the approach with the people that we work with. So.
Okay. Well, I'm constantly giving back with the work I do with All of Us to None. We're connecting people to others to help them. You know, I've been in the prisons, been in the gang, so I know what it's like up in there. And I know what people need for when they get out, you know, and a lot of times I would talk to people, I would ask them, up to this day, I still keep in contact with a lot of guys up in there, and they call me on a regular. And I try to encourage them to basically, if you got time left still to do, man, learn a couple trades before you get out. Learn a couple trades and be serious about it. And when you get out, you still have to go to school because you need that extra education, you know what I mean? And so when I'm in there, I'm showing them, I'll send pictures, let them know how I'm doing when I was going to school, now I'm working, you know what I mean? So there's avenues out here, but like, you know, we say, you gotta want it, and you have to ask for help for them avenues, and they're out there. They're really out there, you know what I mean? And I've been trying to mentor like these younger kids that I've been knowing, these younger teens right now, but I've been knowing them since they was kids, you know what I mean, to try to guide them in the right direction. You know, some have jobs, some still want to run out there and hustle, but also I feel a lot of them are from like a broken family, either a single mother or a single parent or single father there, and the kids are just running around. But if I could be that father figure to them and to keep them off the streets, hey, that's a thumbs up to me. You know what I mean? And that's another person that's not going to be locked up in these cages. You know what I mean? So, and it's like also, like between me, combined with me and my girlfriend, we have 6 kids, 4 grandkids, you know what I mean? And she wants more, of course, but, you know what I mean? So our 4 youngest are in the Spokane public schools right now. And I would like to be able to have access to be right there with them and help them in this, you know, and learn about their transition, their growth. And just the way the system's set up, they try to set it to where we can't get in there. But I'm gonna keep fighting for it. I'm gonna keep fighting for it.
Thank you, Stan. And the last question for the panel today is, how can our community better help families and people involved in the legal system and needing re-entry resources? So Stan, can you start with that today?
Can you repeat that question, please? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. It's how can our community better help families and people involved in the legal system and needing re-entry and resources?
Okay, well, first off, I feel we need to have people inside with lived experiences, you know, and that would look at a family as a whole and really understand like what they need. Because if you haven't lived that experience, you're not going to really know what they need, you know? And that's the problem with stuff now. And I really wish like my probation officer would have understood how empowering the right to vote is, because when I finally got discharged off of probation, my paperwork showed, when he had my paperwork showed I was discharged 3 years prior. So I wasn't able to vote, you know what I mean? And it's like them doing that type of stuff, you know what I mean? What if that one vote would have changed the whole ballot this way or that way? You know what I mean? That's just a figure of speech, but that's some real talk, you know what I mean? And they're basically trying to hold us back from doing what we can do and what we need to do, you know? And some of these teachers, like in the school system, you know what I mean? Like the system set up to imprison our children, you know? And the bail system, man, the bail system is it's something else also. You know what I mean? We need to change the bail system, because like I didn't have the funds to get the proper legal help that I need, you know what I mean? So basically I took a deal and pled guilty just so I don't spend the rest of my life in jail, you know what I mean? And it's like, they need to work on more trying to get people out instead of trying to put people in. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Terry, can you discuss how our community can better help families and people involved in the legal system?
Yeah, for me, I think companies, they should review their hiring policies and procedures, you know, and look more to giving out opportunities, because sometimes that's all it takes, one opportunity. You know what I mean? A person, you know, like I feel like I could change the world, you know, so one opportunity can make a difference, you know, and they got to make sure these policies aren't discriminatory towards us, which they are. You know, a lot of times it's from not knowing, you know what I mean? Policies have been in place a lot of times for decades, you know what I mean? But they need to review them. And that's what, like he said, we got to get inside. We got to get to these places, get into these positions that we can write policies and we can put out the hiring policy. And this is what we're looking for, you know what I mean? Because this is what it takes, you know what I mean? An opportunity. People got to know that they have these resources. They got to know that, you know, that you get to check on your mental health. You know what I mean? They got to know that these are things that are important and these are what can keep you moving forward. You know what I mean? Like you said, people got families that, you know, that depend on them. You know what I mean? So you don't get a job, what are you going to go do? Your family, kids got to eat. You got to eat. You got to have a place to stay. You know what I mean? All these things. They need to, you know, companies should always help people with better their credit and you know, make things easier for them to access instead of putting barriers away and remove them, you know, and they have the power to do that, you know what I mean? Because that's what they do, you know, and I just believe that, you know, it takes people like us to help people like us, you know what I mean? And so we need to be in those places that people need us, and so we can help them, you know what I mean? Like he said, I keep in touch with 3 people that's locked up, you know, send them money every couple of weeks, you know what I mean? They don't have to ask, you know what I mean? Just do it, you know what I mean? They call me, we talk, you know, because I understand what it's like, you know what I mean? I understand that, you know, when I was locked up, every call I made was long distance, you know what I'm saying? You know, after my mom passed away, I didn't even get a visit for the next 5 years. I was doing chemo, you know what I mean? I'm all across the country, you know, everywhere you go, you're an outsider, you know, and you're discriminated against. Every prison you go to, Black men are discriminated against through all other races, you know what I mean? So everything you do, you know, and then you get out, you try not to be institutionalized, you know what I'm saying? But it's hard, and you got to have a mindset because they're not giving you nothing to work with in there. You got to get it on your own. You know what I mean? And so we need to, when the people get out, we got to have situations and things in place that they can say, this is here, this is what you need to do. You know what I'm saying? Try this, you know, if that don't work, try something else. We got to have these things, you know, and the only way you do that is with lived experience. And that's what we have, you know what I mean? I'm not ashamed of who I am today. I like myself today. And that's what I like to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Enriquez, would you like to answer that question? Oh, you're on mute.
So you're never going to learn, am I? Our community, I feel that we do need space for legal help, because the only time most people talk to lawyers is when you in jail. The lawyer got a big caseload. He's gonna not necessarily do what's in the best of your interest. If you cannot pay that man, I mean, not saying all lawyers are bad, but they got a big caseload. Sometimes they're gonna recommend you to take a deal. And if you don't have no money, you definitely gonna take a deal. You do 3 years instead of 35 years. And it's like, if you don't, poor people, you don't have a chance. If you don't have somebody rooting for you, you're done, because you can feel like, you alone. Nobody puts a value to you but yourself. And if you in jail, everybody feels you a criminal. That's a demeaning feeling. To have that feeling, then you have to step back out in the street and start your life over again, and you don't have any tools or resources. It's very hard to do. And we are lucky on this panel because we kept pushing, we kept fighting, and we still here. We made our mind up. We have went through that last time to say, I'm not going back to jail anymore. Thank you.
Thanks, Enriquez. We have a couple questions in the question and answer box. And then I put the email for Eastern Washington, all of us or none, for our chapter in the chat box. And then we also have a Facebook page. And we will be doing a launch soon for the Peer Reentry Navigation and Community Bail Fund. Once we have that all together, we're close. So look for that in probably the next month here in Spokane. And then I wanted to, let's go over the questions in the chat box. So in the question and answer, one of them is, children learn from their parents, grandparents, and other kids. What lessons do you have for your kids and grandkids? And I know that all of us on the panel today are parents, some of us are grandparents. So I don't know who would want to take that first, but I also can say that All of Us or None has a junior chapter where we teach children to tell their stories and talk at school board meetings and participate with us in protests. So if someone wants to answer the question about the children, what would you tell your kids or grandkids? Terry wants to do it.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I have these talks with my sons now, you know what I mean? Like, I know I wasn't here. I'm ready to have that hard conversation of how mad you were, because I'm mad. So I know you got to be mad. And, you know, we get it out the way and we get it behind us. But guess what? I'm here now and we got to work hard and to get to where you want. Don't give up. You know what I'm saying? You know, as kids, they grow up wanting to do one thing, because I did too, want to do one thing, things are going to change. And the same thing changes as an adult. You might have wanted to start to do this. I came home, I wanted to do that, but I ended up doing something else. Your life is going to change, evolve. You know, and something bad happens, it's not the end of the world. We pick up and we keep going. Because, you know, if we stop, then it's over for us. But we got to keep going. We got to keep fighting and get to where we want to be. And as a society, you know what I mean? And it's, you know, we here in Spokane, we're not going to change the world from here, but we're going to sure try. I know I am.
Stanley or Eureka's, did you want to weigh in on that question?
Sure. I tell my kids when I was doing time, I know y'all was probably doing time. It's not just one person. When you go to jail, your whole family is doing time. And I mean, I really stress to them when they grown now and they kind of like, Dad, you was mean when you was growing up. You wouldn't let us do anything. I mean, it's not the point. Try to tell them, it's not that I don't want you to do anything. I just don't want you to go through the same things I went. You know what I'm saying? I want you to be a productive person. Don't go to prison 15 years of your life to realize that's not a good thing and then have to start your life over. Just go to school and do what you need to do and be, as Terry said, do what you like, what you love. And it'll never be a day that you have to work in your life. Thanks.
Well, yeah. So when I got out, it took a minute, like Terry said, you know, you got to have that hard talk with your child. And me and my daughter, we did, but we always kept in contact when I was in there. We always had a good relationship, but she was still angry. And of course, I was angry also for the fact that I was gone. But I was gone so many times, and just that last one was so long in her life, you know what I mean? So we had that talk, boom, got it out the way. And she basically just reflects on what's going on now and what I've been doing since I've been out. And I've been there, you know what I mean? And everybody sees and knows the hard work that I put in to stay out and keep that bond and that relationship with them. And any other kid that I know, you know, I try to talk to them and let them know what's right and right and what's wrong is wrong. And, you know, you have good parent, bad parent, you know, the strict one is basically telling you, no, you can't do this and this because I don't want to see you get into this. You know what I mean? And as we, like, it's a revolving cycle. You know, my pops used to tell me the same stuff and I didn't want to listen. But then when I got older and realized, like, okay, now I remember back then when he was on me about certain things. So you just gotta stay focused, keep your eye on the prize, and take care of your family and your kids. You know what I mean? And whatever they want to know, man, don't be ashamed of it. Tell them. You know what I mean? When they're old enough or whatever, but tell them, explain it to them. Tell them, you know, what you went through and what you don't want them to go through. You know what I mean? So, and then maybe they'll get it. Maybe right then or maybe later. Thank you.
Thank you. We also had someone who shared in the chat box about, I think, the Northwest Justice Project. And we're very appreciative for them as a community partner. When I worked with the bail fund, our office was housed with them for a little while, really enjoy them. I think one of the things we were talking about with legal access is that sometimes we need legal help beyond a public defender to fight our criminal charges. We need help for applying for a business license or filing a divorce or doing a parenting plan or figuring out what to do with parking tickets. And a lot of times without that legal help or knowing where to go, we're kind of stuck without it. So I just want to thank the Washington State Board Association too for having us on this and for letting us lift our voice. I don't know, we got a couple minutes left. If anybody on the panel has anything left they want to add.
Yeah. We need to help people with their credit, old debts. You need to wipe away those old debts so they can get a fresh, that's part of getting a fresh start. Being able to go, you know, and get an apartment, you need credit. You need a 650 here. You know what I mean? Which is crazy, you know what I mean? But we need help with all that. And don't ever give up. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you to all of our panelists. That was a very powerful presentation. We thank you so much for being with us today. This is a great way to end the day. It's the last session, and hopefully many of you attendees will get an opportunity to come back tomorrow. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.